Hello there and welcome to another live chapter reading for Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I shall be reading from The Vassal of Magic, The Virus of Beauty, Book 3 by C.B. Lyall. Chapter 1. Gilvary Gift Store in Hong Kong. A sphere of magical energy grew in Wilf's palm. He sent it floating towards the ceiling, where it hovered for several seconds and then burst, changing the white ceiling to red. Ermyntrude let out a deep sigh, causing another few chin bristles to sprout, and the dark shadows under her eyes to deepen, but otherwise ignored him. Her doughy face, with its enormous wart on the end of her long-beaked nose, had been in a permanent scowl since Lyall had vanished with their daughter. He couldn't take another day cooped up inside the basement workshop. It felt like weeks since Katryna had disappeared, but in fact it had only been 2 days. He missed her. Ermyntrude might think she had broken the bond between him and Katryna, but Wilf knew better. He cared about her. He just wasn't sure how much was real, or if it was just some lingering effect of the bonding ritual they'd performed. This inactivity was driving him insane. Even kicking a soccer ball around with Jaden earlier hadn't helped. Jaden kept using magic to correct the ball's trajectory, until Wilf pointed out this was considered cheating. It had made his stomach knot as he echoed the word Katryna and Enzo had spoken to him when they accused Wilf of using his magical power to win matches. Wilf hadn't known, but Enzo didn't believe him. His best friend had told him not to come to practice anymore. The team didn't need Wilf's skills to win. A scraping noise brought him out of his thoughts as chairs and tables moved out of Ermyntrude's way as she paced. Small clouds of dust rose and then resettled with each step. Cactus, her cat, gave an angry yowl and jumped up onto a chair out of her path. With each turn of the room, Ermyntrude paced with each turn of the room. Etched into every move was their lack of progress in discovering any clue about Katryna's whereabouts. Wilf swung his chair onto its back legs. It banged into the bookcase behind him, and he let his eyes half close. Another day of Ermyntrude and Captain Ingalls grappling for control of a hopeless situation. Their tempers simmered, ready to boil over at any moment. Ermyntrude stopped at her chair and collapsed into it. Her blackened fingernails tapped the table's wooden surface. Sparks flashed with each gnarly rap as her nails dug smouldering grooves into the wood. Ermyntrude, you're going to set the place on fire. Captain Ingalls sat at the other end of the table. His wizard guard jacket hung over the back of his chair. The grey stubble on his chin was out of character with his usual clean-cut image and military bearing. What? Ermyntrude held her hand in midair and glanced down at the table. She let out a loud huff, pushed the chair back, and resumed pacing. The captain had quickly discovered that Ermyntrude wasn't going to be a soldier in his army. He tried to take command, but Ermyntrude had shut him down immediately, making sure he knew no wizard would ever control her. This is getting us nowhere, Captain Ingalls crossed his arms. There must be some clue. Every wizard and witch can't disappear into thin air without some kind of trace for us to follow. You think I don't know that? If you remember, one of those witches is my own daughter. Ermyntrude stopped next to the captain's chair. He raised his palms. I hadn't forgotten. Wilf folded his arms. He'd stopped taking part in their little spats. They didn't want to hear from him. The only people who really listened to him had all left. Katryna hadn't had any choice since Lyall had kidnapped her. Myra had left with Malik. The bracelet she wore gave her no choice. And Enzo wanted nothing to do with a wizard. Wilf took a deep breath. He knew exactly how Enzo felt. If he could, Wilf wouldn't have anything to do with magic either. A stabbing pain in his thigh caused him to swing the chair legs back to the floor. He reached into his pocket and adjusted the shard of crystal he'd found that morning. It had been strange how the light from the small ransom window above the shop door had hit the shard, sending a rainbow of light dancing up the wall when Wilf stepped into the store this morning. He kicked aside the plinth that had once held the mage's crystal, revealing a single shard. It had rolled toward him. Odd that anything remained, but he had put it in his pocket, where it had disappeared along with every other object he tossed in there. His flat pockets should bulge with everything inside them. He tapped the pocket, checking that the shard had returned to the lair of magic. His palm tingled and his journal materialised. The backward Z on the red leather binding pulsed. Wilf laid his wizard's ring on the cover and watched the 3 locks snap open. Pages flipped to his section of the book, and words appeared. Wilf, I'm so proud of all you've achieved. It's taken courage and determination to come this far. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help you. I'm trapped in Mulcuth. It's not where I expected to be when the protection spell activated. I need you to join me here. There's a book of magic and a key. We need to find out and activate them to secure this realm. I've been searching, but although there are plenty of references to them, I found very few clues about where they're hidden. Use the portal behind the bookcase to travel back to Matherwich. The barrier between the 2 realms is breaking down. You should be able to cross over into Mulcuth. Bring Ermentrude with you. She's been researching the Book of Magic and will need her knowledge. We don't have much time. Reginald. His father was alive? Was that possible? And if he was, why had he waited so long to send this message? Will sprang to his feet, pushing a chair into the bookcase. A book toppled from the shelf, hitting his head. What are you doing? Ermentrude spun round. Will picked up the book. Embossed in gold lettering along the spine was A Wizard's Guide to the Districts of Mulcuth. Wilf? He lifted his gaze from the books in each hand to Ermentrude's annoyed face and walked towards her. There's a note in the journal. It wasn't there before. He shook his head and placed both hands on the table in front of her. It's from my dad. It mentions a place called Mulcuth, a book of magic and a key. He wants us to join him there. Wilf pointed at the book. Then this book on Mulcuth fell from the bookcase. A drawing appeared on the page opposite Reginald's note. It was of a panelled hexagonal room. There were symbols written on the wooden panels and a large bookstand sat on the central table. The reading room appeared below the drawing. Captain Ingalls peered over Ermentrude's shoulder. Mulcuth? It's where we originated from before the Magical Realm. Ermentrude sounded distracted. She tapped the reference to the Book of Magic with her fingertip. He's correct. I did a fair bit of research in the Wizard Palace's archives. The keeper of the Book of Magic has direct contact with the source. As far as I'm aware, the last mage to hold that position evaporated when Mulcuth was abandoned. The book disappeared too. She looked at Wilf. Reginald's been in Mulcuth all this time. If you believe this note, Wilf reached for the journal, but it jumped into the air and disappeared in a puff of smoke. He desperately wanted to believe his father was alive, but a nagging doubt remained. Footsteps pounded into the shop above them. Ermentrude tutted and turned down the stairs. Jaden marched into view. He and Captain Ingalls were all that remained of the Wizard's Guards, and yet they maintained their army discipline. The captain's patrol had disappeared along with the Matherwich witches when the mage's crystal exploded. Look who I found. Jaden moved aside, allowing Wilf's stepsister Myra to enter the workshop. Malik trailed behind her. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, Malik slung his arm around Myra. She only came up to the wizard's chin when he pulled her possessively closer. Her short bob blonde hair contrasted with Malik's untidy black shoulder-length style. Myra's clothes matched Malik's jean and a black t-shirt. Myra took pride in her individual style and had always made fun of couples who dressed the same. Wilf's fist clenched. How much control was Malik exerting over her? We've been trying to reach you, Ermentrude said. They'd landed at the portal next to the biome in Shartin. Wilf had been mesmerised by the mist swirling within the large dome. Even when he'd closed his eyes, the buzz had filled his head, wrapping energy around his mind and calling for him to connect with the magical energy. Ermentrude had grabbed his arm before he could touch the shimmering fabric and make a physical connection. He'd snapped his eyes open and swallowed. That had been close. You could have texted or called me rather than damage the biome. Myra pulled free of Malik and walked towards Ermentrude. What do you mean? Wilf couldn't help noticing a new set of bruises on Myra's arm that looked like fingerprints. The biome collapsed. Malik edged away from Jaden to glare first at Wilf, then at Ermentrude. I know you've been there. What did you do? Nothing, Wilf said. It was working perfectly well when we arrived and when we left. Wilf shuddered. What he didn't mention was that he'd walked over to a bank of levers and grabbed one. A bolt of energy had thrown him onto his back, causing his vision to blur for several minutes. He rubbed the small burn scar that puckered the skin of his palm. We went inside and noticed all the magic was combined. You triggered the protection spell, Malik said. Wilf clenched his fingers, fighting the urge to punch the other wizard. He stood straighter, using his 6-foot height to peer down at Malik. We noticed that the magic had changed as soon as we entered the control centre, Malik said, folding his arms across his chest. Why were you trying to contact us? He stared back at Wilf. I thought you'd be happy never to see us again. Believe me, I still feel the same way. But look around. Notice anything different? Wilf gestured at the empty space. You mean the street outside and this workshop being empty of witches and wizards? Where is everyone? Myra said. I connected the mage's crystal to the biome. Unfortunately, we now think it was the source. Wilf said. Myra collapsed onto a chair and Malik let out a low whistle. What happened? At first the process seemed to work. It restored the wizard guards and the executrix squad's magic, Wilf explained. Ermintrude interjected. Hyrule decided he should be next, grabbed Katryna and made a connection, and they disappeared. She left out the bit about Hyrule being accused of murder and using Katryna to make his escape from the guards and Grand Wizard Verger. No, Myra said. Where did they go? Malik asked. No idea. The crystal exploded. A sort of dust cloud formed and spread out over the remaining witches and wizards. And everyone disappeared, Wilf said. I hope you enjoyed that chapter reading and that you'll go check out the book. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.